Welcome back to the Better Learning Podcast. We are continuing our conversations at EDspaces in Columbus, Ohio. We hope you're enjoying this series, and let's dive back in.
All right. So why don't you give your name, title, organization?
Sure. So I'm Jeannie Haubert. I am the executive director of Learn. We're an education research nonprofit.
Perfect. All right. So there's a couple different things we're asking about. The first one is that when you hear the term radically student-centered, what resonates with you?
What comes to mind? Anything radical sounds great to me. Sounds fun and exciting. And student-centered is what we do, right? So I worked in higher education for 20 years. I still teach a online course on the side. I teach an intro to sociology class. Yeah, just to kind of keep my finger on the pulse of students. But I think that when we're thinking about why we do what we do, it is about fulfilling student needs, right? And so for me, student-centered is how educators make their work relevant, make it important. I used to tell my students my job is to stand on the desk and be crazy and wild and whatever I need to do to like wake you up and shake you up and get you involved in and excited about the learning.
Nice. All right. So you picked the question here. Can you share a time when a design decision directly influenced how students learn, interact, or feel within a space?
Yeah. So if I'm leaning on kind of my higher ed background here, I would say that I was department chair for a while, and one of the things we noticed was that faculty would sit in their offices and no one would come to office hours, and students would be struggling in a class, and faculty would invite them to office hours, but they would never come because those spaces were intimidating and not for them, really. And so, in thinking about how do we really engage students more outside of class, one of the things that I wound up doing was setting up a student work lounge, and that it was kind of right in the middle of the department and not too far from the faculty offices, but the faculty had to walk through that space to get to their copiers, to get to their mail, but the student lounge was student centered. It was a workspace. It had like little work pods for them. It had soft lighting. It had coffee and snacks, a whiteboard they could write on, a lot of cool decorations. It was a space for them to hang out between classes and collaborate, work on projects together. But it also became a space where they would run into faculty and they could have those more informal conversations. And faculty started offering to meet them there instead of meeting them in their offices. And for me, that's kind of what being student-centered is about, right? Meeting them where they are.
That was awesome. That's a great example. Huh. Anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, I will just say that the space before we did that was, I mean, I don't think had been updated since the 1970s. There were no chairs for students to sit on in between classes. It just didn't encourage them to be there. It didn't feel like their space. It didn't feel like a place where they were invited to kind of be a part of the community. And so I think a big focus for me as an educator was really on community building, and that included the students as well as the faculty. I think that's where we would talk about the things that like help you decide a career path, for example, are often not times what happens in the classroom. It's what happens just outside the classroom with those kind of informal conversations. And that's where real mentoring happens. And I think that's great for student growth.
All right. So I want to hear if you gave your elevator what speech on Learn. Yeah. What's Learn about? And then I want to hear too, like, why did you get involved?
Yeah. Okay. So if I forget the second question, come back to me with that. Learn for me is about bringing academic research to K through 12 decision makers so that they have evidence-based decisions, so that they can solve their problems of practice, but by relying on a full set of information on what's already working in other places. It's a network that connects university researchers to K through 12 district leaders, and supported by education industry partners. who are also hungry for some of that same information. What's working in other places? What can we do to better support students? I think that when all three of those entities have students at the center of their focus, that's when real collaboration can happen. So that's kind of what Learn is about, is building that network. I think it is sharing some of the education industry experts have some really like niche knowledge that K through 12 superintendents don't necessarily know, but might like to learn from, about, the auditory environment, or how flooring or roofing or HVAC, how all of these things like impact student learning. And so it gives them a chance to share some of that, but then also pairs that with what's coming out of the universities in terms of best practices and what's really working in a lot of places.
So how'd you get involved with it?
So I worked in higher ed for about almost 20 years, 18 years, and it was great. And I kind of moved all the way up through the ranks, and my choice after department chair was to either stay there for the next 25 years until I retired, or become a dean. And I wanted to also have a life, and I didn't think I could do that and be a dean. So I started, considering other options. I got recruited away by our national association within sociology. So it's the American Sociological Association, needed a director of research and somebody to coordinate professional development for department chairs. And that sounded interesting to me. I did that for a little while, but was looking then for a next step and came across Learn. And it seemed to me like a really great combination of my interest in both teaching and research, and service, really. So all three of the things that I was really dedicated to as a faculty member, teaching, research, and service, I could do, but more kind of on the ground.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
Nice. Very cool. Anything else? Are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
Nice.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us for this special EDspaces edition of the Better Learning Podcast. We hope today's conversation sparked new ideas and reminded you just how powerful student-centered learning environments can be. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow the podcast and share it with someone who's passionate about improving education. And as always, keep pushing forward, keep rethinking what's possible, and keep making learning better, one space at a time. We'll see you in the next episode.